Today, we will learn about the research methods in medical sciences. Research methodology is the backbone of any scientific study, especially in medical research where accuracy, ethics, and evidence based practice are essential. It provides a systematic plan for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to answer a specific research question or test a hypothesis. A well defined methodology ensures that findings are valid, reliable, and reproducible, contributing to better healthcare decisions and patients' outcome. What is a research? A systematic means of problem solving. Types of research. There are two main types of research: quantitative research or qualitative research. Quantitative research. Quantitative methods emphasize objective measurements and the statistical, mathematical, or numerical analysis of data collected through polls, questionnaire, and surveys, or by manipulating pre-existing statistical data, secondary data using computational techniques. In qualitative research method is primarily exploratory research. It is used to gain an understanding of underlying reasons, opinions, and motivations. It provides insight into the problem or helps to develop ideas or hypotheses for potential quantitative research. Research methodology. A research methodology is a term that basically means how research is done scientifically. It is a way to systematically and logically solve a research problem. This video lecture will cover the key component of a research methodology will include it: time period of study, study place or location, target population and sample, inclusion and exclusion criteria, study design, sampling techniques, operational definitions, study variables, socio-demographic variables, condition or disease status or outcome. Study measure tool like any diagnostic tool, sample size calculation, data collection time period, details of data collection plan, number of routing methods of study subjects, patients, how organized, statistical analysis plan, ethical consideration. The component not a part of methods is consent form, questionnaire or survey form, budget of proposal, and funding form of proposal. Study time period. A time period of study time will be used spent for conducting the research. Time start with generating research idea to furnish the research time. This study will be done from September 2024 to July 2025. Study place location. A study place where research will be conducted, the country of study place, and province, city, area, or any department or hospital. For example, the study participants will be selected from the Department of Plastic Surgery, Dr. K. M. Pho Civil Hospital, DUHS, Baba-e-Urdu Road, Karachi, Sindh, Pakistan. Target population. The target population refers to the entire group of individuals, objects to which researchers are interested in generalizing the conclusion. For example, all MBBS students study in medical colleges of Karachi. Inclusion and exclusion criteria. In a clinical trial or a public health research, the investigator must specify inclusion and exclusion criteria for the participation in the study. The inclusion criteria are the characteristics that the potential subject must have if they are to be included in the study, while exclusion criteria are those characteristics that disqualify potential subjects from inclusion in the study. For example, all newly diagnosed head and neck cancer patients with the carcinoma cell that smoke. Example of the exclusion criteria: those who are terminally ill, mentally or cognitively unstable, and pregnant women. Study design. A study design is a specific plan for conducting the study which allows the investigator to interpret the conceptual hypothesis into an operational one. There are two main types of study design: experimental and observational. Sampling methods. A sampling methods is a procedure for selecting sample members, participants from a population. Sampling methods are classified as either probability method and non-probability method. In probability sample, each members of the population has a non-zero probability of being selected. Four common probability sampling methods are: data collection times. A period of time will be used for collecting the research data. Total field time for data collection. For example, data will be collected from 1st March to 25th August 2025. Data collection plan. A data collection plan is a detailed document. It describes the exact steps as well as the sequence that needs to be followed in gathering the data for the given research project. For example, after the approval of IRB, DUHS data will be collected. Participants will be selected from the OPD of Medicine Department, Civil Hospital Karachi, who will who fulfill the inclusion and exclusion criteria of the study. First, researcher will take the consent of the participants and briefly describe the purpose of the study. If he/she agreed, then will be filled questionnaire. Also measure the health and wealth of the participants. Outcome measure. An outcome measure is the result of the test: hepatitis B virus positive and negative, or disease status, diabetic foot present or absent, that is used to determine the baseline functions of a patient at the beginning of the treatment. For example, blood pressure or diabetic present or absent. Once treatment has started, The same instrument, information, or test can be used to determine progress and treatment efficacy. Operational definition. And operational definition is the application of the operationalization used in defining the terms of the process needed to be determined the nature of the item or phenomena. A variable terms or objective and its properties such as duration, quantity, or delay. For example, body mass index (WHO definition) below 18.5 underweight, 18.5 to 24.9 normal weight, 25 to 29.9 pre-obesity, 30 to 34.9 obesity class 1. Sample size. Sample size determination is the method of choosing the number of observation n or participants to be included in the research. The sample size is an important feature of any empirical study in which the goal is to make the inferences about the population from a sample. Some factors we need to calculate the sample size, the prevalence of the study or disease, level of significance alpha, bound on error, confidence limit. Here we have the sample size calculation software, online software, OpenAPI. In OpenAPI, we go to sample size, proportion formula. Here we put the anticipated frequency, confidence limit 5% and design effect is equal to 1. For proportion studies, we use this formula. We consider 14% of prevalence for smoking. Here the calculated sample size at 95% confidence level is 185 participants. Data analysis plan. The data analysis plan will be applied to examine each of the research hypotheses. In the data analysis plan, data analysis software, data cleaning, data transformation, and assumption of the data or analysis should be addressed. In addition to the actual analytical will be test selected, software name and version, descriptive statistics like mean, standard deviation, frequencies, percentages, inferential statistics, t-test, ANOVA, and chi-square test, level of significance 0.05, 0.01 or zero point 0.1. Ethical consideration in a research are critical. Ethics are the norms or standards for conduct that distinguish between right and wrong. They help to determine the difference between the acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. Two things considered in ethical consideration. One is informed consent and other is institutional review board of research studies. Not a part of research method. Informed consent. Permission granted in full knowledge of the possible consequence, typically that which is given by the patient to a doctor for treatment, which knowledge of the possible risk and benefits, written informed consent was obtained from each patient. Here, the informed consent sample form available for DOH's website. In sample consent form, we have total 8 points and declaration of the consent. The first point is information about the PI. The second point, information about the research in simple language. The third point, research procedure. Fourth point is risk and benefits of the research. The rights of participant is fifth, the confidentiality of the participants, and the if research is genetic, then the permission needed for this study. Provide an address and telephone number is the last point. Research questionnaire. A questionnaire is an instrument for collecting data and almost always involve asking a given subject to respond to a set of oral or written questions. A survey is a process for gathering data that could involve a wide variety of the data collection methods, including a questionnaire. Research project plan Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is a horizontal bar chart developed as a production control tool in 1917 by Henry L. Gantt, an American engineer and social scientist. Frequently used in project management, a Gantt chart provides a graphical illustration of the schedule that helps to plan, coordinate, and track specific tasks in a project. Here, a picture of Gantt chart for relevant to the research project. Identify the research area, formulate research questionnaire, formulate research strategy plan and design, write research proposal, literature review, data collection, data analysis, write first draft, second draft, write final draft, dissemination, due. Here in rows we have task and column wise we have the time or months. Budget. The budget is a line item tabular representation of the expenses associated with the research proposal or project. The budget justification contains more in-depth detail of the cost behind the line items and sometimes explain the use of the fund where not evident. Please subscribe and like our channel and press bell icon for more videos.